The studio lights were already blazing when Liam Neeson stepped onto the set of the live daytime talk show. It was a familiar kind of chaos. Cameras gliding on tracks, producers whispering into headsets, audience members buzzing with excitement. But something about this appearance felt different, tighter, more charged. Liam took his seat with calm professionalism. He wore a simple dark suit, hands folded loosely, his expression composed but distant, as if his thoughts were already elsewhere. Across from him sat the panel of hosts, smiling for the cameras, ready to guide the conversation. Joy Behar leaned forward first, her tone playful but sharp in the way seasoned television personalities often are. "So, Liam," she began, tilting her head slightly, "you've played some of the most intense, violent characters in modern cinema. Do you ever worry that audiences can't separate you from those roles?" A light laugh rippled through the audience. Liam smiled politely. "I think most people understand the difference between acting and reality. At least I hope they do." The answer was safe, measured. But Joy didn't move on. Instead, she narrowed her eyes slightly, as if testing something beneath the surface. "Still," she continued, "you've made a career out of revenge stories. Taken, after all, is basically about a man who enjoys brutal retaliation. Do you think that sends a problematic message?" A small shift in the room followed. The laughter faded. Liam's expression changed subtly. Still calm, but now more guarded. "It's a film," he said slowly. "A character in a story. Not a message I live by." The audience clapped lightly, unsure whether they were witnessing tension or just television banter. But Joy leaned further in. "Sure, but actors influence culture. People look up to you. Don't you think portraying violence over and over normalizes it?" A pause stretched longer than comfortable. Liam's fingers tightened slightly on the armrest. "I think," he replied carefully, "that storytelling often explores difficult human emotions. It doesn't mean it endorses them." A few claps, but the energy had shifted again. The studio felt warmer now, almost too warm. Another host tried to soften the moment, jumping in with a lighter question about Liam's upcoming projects. For a brief moment, the tension eased. Liam nodded, answered professionally, even allowed a small smile. But Joy wasn't finished. She glanced at her notes, then looked up again. "You've also spoken in past interviews about personal anger and how you dealt with it," she said. "Some people might say that's exactly what you bring to your characters. That rage, that intensity. Do you think you've fully dealt with that part of yourself? Or do you just use it for work?" The air changed completely. This time, Liam didn't respond immediately. The silence stretched. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing that this was no longer casual television conversation. It had become something else, something more personal, more invasive. Liam exhaled slowly. "That's a very personal question," he said at last. Joy didn't back down. "But you're a public figure." A faint murmur went through the audience. Liam looked down for a second, then back up. His voice remained controlled, but the edge was now visible. Being a public figure doesn't mean every personal boundary disappears. The host beside Joy tried to intervene again, smiling nervously. "Well, let's maybe—" But Joy raised her hand slightly, continuing anyway. "I'm just trying to understand the man behind these roles," she said. "Because sometimes it feels like you're not that different from the characters you play." That was the moment the atmosphere snapped. Liam leaned forward slightly, his tone firmer now. "I am very different from the characters I play." A beat. "And I would appreciate if we kept that distinction clear." The audience went silent. For a brief second, it looked like the conversation might recover. But Joy's expression remained unchanged, curious, persistent, unrelenting. "Of course, Mom," she said, "but people are curious. That's why you're here." Liam looked at her directly now. No smile, no polite distance. "I came here to talk about my work," he said quietly. "Not to have my character questioned." The studio felt frozen. Producers in the back exchanged quick glances. A camera operator subtly adjusted focus, sensing something breaking open live on air. Joy opened her mouth again, perhaps to push further. But this time Liam moved first. He stood up. The movement was sudden but not dramatic, just final. The audience gasped collectively. "Thank you for having me," he said, voice calm but firm. No anger, no shouting, just conclusion. And then he walked. His footsteps echoed softly on the studio floor as he stepped out of frame. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The cameras kept rolling, capturing stunned expressions, half-finished reactions, a studio unsure of what it had just witnessed. Joy Behar leaned back in her chair, blinking once, then forcing a small laugh as if trying to reclaim control of the moment. But the energy was gone. The segment had fractured. The remaining hosts scrambled gently to redirect the show, throwing to a commercial break that felt abrupt and unusually long. Behind the scenes, the tension continued. Producers rushed down corridors. Someone spoke into a headset in urgent tones. The guest hallway became a blur of movement and confusion. Liam stood just outside the main set area, exhaling slowly, hands at his sides. He wasn't visibly angry anymore, just withdrawn, like someone stepping out of a bright room into silence. A producer approached carefully. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Liam nodded once. "I just don't do well with that kind of interrogation," he said. No drama in his voice, just fact. The producer hesitated. "We can address it if you want." He shook his head. "No need." Meanwhile, inside the studio, the audience was still buzzing. Some whispered about what had just happened. Others replayed the exchange in fragments, trying to decide where the shift had begun. Joy sat quietly now, her earlier confidence replaced by a more reflective silence. Whether she regretted it or not wasn't clear, but the moment had clearly landed differently than intended. The show eventually returned from break with a different tone, lighter questions, careful transitions. But everyone in the room knew the truth. The energy had already been broken. Later that day, clips of the exchange began circulating online. Viewers debated fiercely, some defending Liam's right to privacy and respect, others arguing that public figures should expect tough questioning. But most agreed on one thing. The moment had felt real, unplanned and deeply uncomfortable. And somewhere in that silence after he walked off stage, one thing lingered in everyone's mind. The exact moment a controlled television interview stopped being performance and became something raw, unpredictable and unforgettable.